Good morning. Still morning?
Barely.
I'm sorry to keep you all waiting. I know we were right at 11 and seems like 10 minutes. I think it is noon already. But thank you all so much for being here. We do appreciate it. I'll be giving you some updates as it relates to phase 3.3. However, before I do that, I wanted to take a minute to reflect on something that happened this weekend, actually on Saturday of this weekend on Decatur Street. You know, like me, there was a gathering on Decatur Street this Saturday that was not permitted, not allowed, not authorized, not coordinated at all by the city of New Orleans. Prior to this event on Saturday, I received a little email from a resident tipping me off about what could come to the city of New Orleans, like what we saw in other cities, Miami, Portland, Seattle, many of the cities throughout. After receiving that, passing it on to my team, we did our due diligence of assuring, okay, reaching out to the organizers, letting them know, hey, not in the city of New Orleans. Our guidelines do not permit it, do not organize, do not come. We learned at that particular time there was a focus on Waldenburg Park, even the artillery, Washington Artillery, and we reached out to Audubon in terms of leadership there, putting them on notice about what we were also hearing and being proactive to prevent in our city. After such, we asked that it be put in writing, right, prior to the weekend. Long story short, the organizers were given a directive from the city of New Orleans that it would not be permitted. The city, again, as I mentioned, contacted those organizers, and the organizers used the pretense of religion to hold this event with other motives. And that simply was not right. The organizer has attempted to make this name for himself by putting communities in danger and denying personal responsibility in other cities that I mentioned a short minute ago. You know, I thought about Pastor Barry Hill and one of our directors here in city government who reminded me of Romans 13, 1 and 2, which reads, the Bible says, let everyone be subject to the governing authorities. But we must always balance protecting constitutional rights and the freedom of expression with public safety concerns. And so while this was under the guise of a religious activity or an event, we know that it put our people in danger. And as a result, the New Orleans Police Department had to treat it as such, meaning a protest, something under the guise, again, of religion. And we had to make sure, again, that we responded accordingly. Due to the size of this unpermitted event, the NOPD had to take action to block off traffic in the area and, of course, de-escalate any events as we knew what happened in other cities. They did so, again, in the best interest of public safety. Neither the NOPD nor the city in any way will condone or support this reckless behavior, irresponsible behavior in our city. The images circulating online, and when I got out, I was furious. But I have to say, the reactions from the public, meaning our residents, we were aligned. We were all upset about it. And I appreciate that response from our people because you all, the public, our residents, have been doing what's necessary to curb this pandemic in our community, meaning the surge, bringing it down. We've been leading the state of Louisiana. We have been leaders in this country as it relates to combating this coronavirus. And we want to continue to remain on that path to progress for our community. So I'm very upset about what happened in our city. And Lauren Daigle, I understand, was a part of that. A Louisiana native, someone that we know we all love the music, but I have to say, very disappointed in the actions there. knowingly how hard the city of New Orleans have worked. And it means everybody in this city making sure that we are the safest place to live and also to visit. So I had to make that public statement about it. Very upset. We're going to make sure every step of the way. I've been in touch with, of course, the New Orleans Police Department, of course, safety and permits, but bottom line, the law department for the city of New Orleans, to pursue every angle possible to hold these individuals accountable, again, under the skies of religion. So now let me move on to something sweet or nice that reflects the hard work that our citizens have demonstrated. And that means our ability to move into 3.3. Regardless of what we saw on Saturday, it is in no way preventing us from progress that is due to our residents, due to our businesses in our city, having to ensure we keep the balance to move things along. So with that, Dr. Vegner will follow me giving you more details about what 3.3 means. But what I will say, as of Wednesday of this week, we will officially move into 3.3. New Orleans will be largely in line now with the state guidelines for the state of Louisiana, which Governor John Bell Edwards recently extended. The major exception is in our restrictions on the crowd size for large gatherings. Indoor gatherings capped at 100 people, outdoor gatherings moved capping them at 150 people. Bars without that state AR conditional permit will now be allowed to open and also open indoor. This is a big deal with moving towards 25% capacity. Of course, we allowed outdoor seating, outdoor capacity for our bars in 3.2, but in 3.3, they will be able to move into that 25% capacity or 50 individuals, whichever is the fewer. Outdoor seating to 100% capacity or 50 individuals. We're allowed to sell alcoholic beverages through drive-through, takeout, and or curbside pickup. Must follow the state fire marshal's guidelines, of course, that are aligned again with the state of Louisiana. So we have been very intentional about how we've moved with easing restrictions in our city, and rightfully so, because we're able to do things that many cities in this country are not able to do right now. And that speaks to education. Our children are in school, pre-K through 12th grade, public, private, and parochial. This isn't happening in many states, many cities across the country. So we continue to be an example of progress as we move through this COVID-19. Of course, what I've said always, what is to come will depend on what we do right now. How well we abide by the guidelines that are in place will ultimately determine where we will move in the future. But as of right now, we're moving into 3.3. I want to encourage, now I know a lot of the folks who came in here over the weekend came from outside of the city of New Orleans. But I do want to encourage anyone who has participated in large gatherings that they know were not aligned with our guidelines to make sure you get tested. Again, we have to double down on our efforts to remain safe as we ease restrictions in our community. So that means us, everyone, doing their part, playing their role, being responsible. Make sure you get tested, make sure you follow the guidelines, because this is going to be the only way that we will continue to see progress in our city. So I want to say thank you so much for getting us to where we are right now. And I do look forward to future easements, but again, it will depend on the actions of the public, our residents and our visitors. So practice social distancing, wear that mask, and get tested. Isolate if you're sick. And I have to say, as a mom, let me take this back off because I have to say this. As a mother, and a kid who was in school, who was officially notified even on yesterday that we had a student come up being tested positive. So now I'm a part of that as well, having to move my kid back out, meaning isolate, virtual instruction. But my point is, everyone's actions, it impacts everybody. everyone. So let's do our part. Personal responsibility. It's something that we must do in order to, one, continue to see progress and to keep our people healthy. So with that, risk is all around us, but it's how we mitigate that risk. And we do it by following the guidelines. So Dr. Abegno, come on up. I know I've talked a lot, but this is serious stuff. And you've been in the trenches every step of the way. So come on up, and thank you again.
We got the big jug of hand sanitizer. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. As we announced last week, Mayor Cantrell, and obviously with the full support of the Health Department, made the decision to delay what we had hoped our original Phase 3.3 deadline would be due to Hurricane Zeta. As you know, in the days leading up to and following the storm, our testing was canceled, reporting of results was somewhat delayed. We know as well that during this period, many residents may have stayed with others outside their regular households, either to hunker down or during the power outages that followed the storm. And so for those reasons, it was really important for us to pause and examine what would happen to our cases. Right now, the data trends in Orleans continue to be stable. But I will say, we are seeing a spike in university student cases related to Halloween and storm activities. I want to commend our university partners. They are really stepping up. They made us aware of this right away. They are vastly increasing their testing, and they know that most of our students will be going home in just a week or two. I do want to let people know that, because that is going to affect our numbers. It's already starting to, and it will affect our numbers. But with the amount of testing, we expect the positivity rates to stay low. So because of all this, because our general trends have been remarkably stable for a very long time, that does allow us, as the mayor said, to move into Phase 3.3 beginning on Wednesday, at which point we are going to very nearly match the state's Phase 3 guidelines. So this includes the major changes here are increasing in indoor and outdoor gathering sizes and the ability for bars to have some indoor seating. Specifically, indoor gatherings, anything that is a gathering, a wedding, a funeral, an event, will be allowed to increase size from 50 to 100. But remember, all attendees must wear masks, and the indoor venue must be large enough for individuals to be 6 feet apart at all times. Outdoor gatherings will increase from 100 to 150 with the same masking and social distancing requirements. We feel that we have been very successful because we have done incremental increases in gathering sizes, and that's really allowed us to assess what happens when you do that in a small step rather than going from 0 to 250 all in one fell swoop. As the mayor said, bars and breweries will be allowed to have 25% of their permitted occupancy indoors with a max of 50 people. They can also have 100% of their capacity outdoors, also with a max of 50 people. As a reminder, per the state's guidelines, and these match the state's guidelines, indoor live entertainment is not allowed in bars, and again, in bars, just where everywhere else, mask, distance, table service only, okay? Since we've been in 3.2 and we have the capacity, we have increased some live entertainment options, we have heard the concerns that some businesses and individuals have been confused about the rules around live entertainment, and they have been, a little confusing as we try to work through with the state what is safe. We at the city have been working very closely with safety and permits to create new guidance that is clearer for special events and live entertainment, along with an easier process for seeking approval. We want to make it as easy as possible for folks to know what they can do safely and to get it fast-tracked. This information is also going to be available Wednesday on the One Stop app, our website, excuse me. So if you're planning an event, Wednesday you'll be able to go through sort of this new process. So I'm really happy. I'm incredibly proud of our residents, our friends, our colleagues, our neighbors to announce 3.3. It's really important to understand that New Orleans and Louisiana are incredibly unique right now compared to the rest of the country. Well, I'm sure you've all seen cases are surging at an alarming rate. We are setting records nationwide every day in terms of cases and hospitalizations and deaths. We are an outlier, we are a good outlier, and we want to remain it. I think why, I don't know that we're 100% sure. I do believe it's partially due to our warmer weather, and again, the hard work. Mask wearing is the norm here, and it has been for months, and that has saved countless lives and allowed businesses to open. Even so, it's going to get colder. It is very possible we could see the same surge or another surge coming in the winter months, so we can't be complacent and think that we're gonna be fine forever. As long as the rest of the country is out of control, there is almost certainly gonna be some spillover here. So we are, again, we continue to watch those numbers, we continue to watch what happens in the rest of the country daily to just see if we can identify trends before they happen so we can make sure we stay on this path. I can promise you no one wants to go backwards. Nobody wants to see restrictions put back in place. Should we have to do that, as the mayor alluded to, I want to emphasize that keeping kids in school is going to be our top priority. And that's because in a very careful review of the school data, while some students, as the mayor has experience with, and teachers have contracted the virus so far this school year, there is really no indication that it is spreading in a classroom. Where we're seeing spread is outside, is the slumber party, the birthday party, the teachers who go out to dinner with each other, and then some athletic teams. Again, that's because our educators have done heroic work in instituting and enforcing good disease control measures. Every kid wears a mask, kids social distance, they wash their hands, and they've been doing a really good job at tracing, as you know. So as long as that continues, we are gonna do everything in our power to keep schools open and our kids in the classroom. As the mayor said, this isn't happening in most big cities around the country. Most places are still primarily virtual learning, cities of our size. So the fact that we're able to do this successfully is really sort of a lesson in I hope how to do things right. And I wanna give our kids that advantage as long as possible. If we do begin to see alarming data, a bad trend, that would mean we would have to start reinstituting certain restrictions. Again, we will take a surgical approach. If we can identify, one thing that is really a problem, we'll look at that thing. If not, we'll begin with activities that are high risk and lower priority, so sort of like phase 3 in reverse. Again, none of us wants to get there, but just so everyone has an expectation if we do. I just want to remind everybody how hard we've worked to get here. Everyone that, in the city, it's time to stay the course. With the holidays coming up, it is absolutely critical that we continue to prevent the spread. This is causing great concern all over the country with my colleagues. Holidays are really a tricky time. If you do plan to gather with people outside of your immediate household, whether it's a holiday dinner, a sleepover, a Saints party, a barbecue, you've got to wear a mask and practice social distancing during the entire event. Nationally and statewide, where we see outbreaks, many of them are linked to these small private gatherings. We know the danger that large gatherings cause, and we've done a good job at not having large gatherings. Now we're seeing it in these smaller gatherings. Don't let the comfort of your friends and family allow you to let your guard down. I love my family too, and I love my friends, but there's just as much chance that they could be infected as somebody that I don't know. If you're unsure how to celebrate safely, there's some great safety tips at ready.nola.gov/holidays. A lot of cities are putting out really good guidance, but we've compiled some as well. And as the mayor said, if you participated in a high-risk activity or you just want to know, please get tested. We have worked really hard to ensure we have robust testing. As of this weekend, we had tested in the city of New Orleans the equivalent of 85% of our population. That's tremendous. Please take advantage of this as long as we have it. We can really keep our numbers low by testing. And finally, this has been a really rough year for all of us for many, many different reasons, but New Orleanians continue to show the world how committed, how strong, and how resilient we are. So I just wanna offer my thanks for all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vegno. Thank you very much. And the fact of the matter is, we wanna keep on going. So, Ms. Latanya will take questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. WGNO.
Mayor, if CDC guidelines end up being violated in New Orleans, how will safety leaders enforce? Is that $500 fine still going to be enforced?
So the $500 fine is still on the books and is definitely enforceable. And so I think what is demonstrated, which we talked about this morning, is the progress that we've made in the city that is closely tied to personal responsibility. And we want to continue to encourage our people to stay the line, go the long haul, because it really has reflected in our ability to be healthier, but also to get our businesses back on track.
In response to Saturday's event, you said that the city's working to hold the organizers accountable for moving forward with that event, even though it was not authorized. What could that look like? I mean, could they face fines?
Well, actually, I have the law department looking into all possibilities right now. So I've given that directive this morning, something that we could actually do, not just want to do, right? But could we actually do it? So we're looking into that. And one of the constraints too, in terms of that I found, that with issuing a citation, the individual would need to sign that. So that's something that is not in our purview right now, it seems. But again, I'm like, are you sure? So they're just going, the extra mile to determine what the city of New Orleans could legally do based on the event that was held, but also recognizing the balance in that, because it was, under the theme of a religious, activity. So they're looking closely.
WWL.
With Pfizer announcing today they're ramping up, or it could be a vaccine in the coming weeks and months, what's the city's plan ultimately when it's widely available?
Oh, we're excited. Look, we're ready for that question. I'll let Dr. Vegno handle it because she's been working so hard. We have actually set up, in terms of how we're doing our testing now, we have factored in, if we get the vaccine, how can we create, we're doing pilots right now that we would be able to roll out when the vaccine is available, but we baked that in to our strategy today. So I'll let Dr. Vegno tell you a lot more about her hard work.
I'm super excited you asked that question. So, Pfizer obviously came out with some good news today. It's very preliminary, but they've been one of the leading candidates for a while and really have taken the lead in doing some good work to ensure everyone that this is going to be a scientific approach. It's not going to be rushed, and we're going to do the right thing. We have been working, so the way the vaccine distribution will work is through the state. We've been working with the state, planning this for months now. And so we're well represented there, but we've also, and we'll be, sending out some more information about this in the next couple of days. We now have a vaccine strategy group that encompasses every particular aspect of, from acquisition, distribution, communication, equity, engagement, because we know this is going to be an incredibly heavy lift. So working not only with our healthcare partners, but with our academic partners, with industry, understanding the logistics of the vaccine, with our Homeland Security, with community and faith-based leaders, which is incredibly important. So we are hitting the ground running. I do want to set expectations about this vaccine. It's still, this is sort of the first step to say it looks like in the trial that we've been running that it's successful. They have not reported any adverse effects. I haven't seen the actual data. This is just sort of their first report. It is likely it will go before the FDA in the next couple of weeks, as long as everything stays the same, for an emergency authorization. When that occurs, the CDC, and I believe they released them in the last week or so, has a very specific priority distribution. The first people, whether it's New Orleans or anywhere else, who will receive vaccine are going to be high-risk healthcare workers, and then likely high-risk individuals like nursing home residents, and everybody understands why. There is a very specific tiered system. When this comes for a general population, anybody who wants one gets one, and that's what we're planning for, is several steps down the road. So, again, what we've been talking about all along is a spring, early summer timeline. It's a little too early to say, but it's encouraging that we could be on that timeline. We're gonna be ready, as the mayor said. We're gonna be ready. We've already started doing some dry runs. We will continue to test and pilot. We are gonna be giving vaccinations in a number of different ways when the time comes.
And I do want to ask about that a little bit.
Sure.
Just tell a picture. I mean, would it be drive-through things like the testing was, or going
Yeah.
to a neighborhood drugstore?
So my understanding is that the feds have contracted with Walgreens and CVS to be vaccine distribution points as a minimum, right? And it's not clear if that's going to be for everybody, if that will start with the high risk. There's a lot of details to be worked out. So that will be part of it. We anticipate the healthcare systems will have a plan to distribute it to their workers, obviously. So the big, Oshnerl CMC 2 lane, right? They're all going to figure out how to get it to their employees when their list, point on the list is there. What we envision is very much how we run our community-based testing strategy. So drive-through, walk up, deliberately in neighborhoods with maybe a lot of people who don't have a car, working with our community leaders, our neighborhood leaders, our faith leaders. We understand the real hurdles and the real concern and resistance that many in our community might have with this vaccine. And so it is certainly incumbent on us as the health professionals to make sure it is absolutely safe, and then to really work hard to get that message out so that people feel comfortable taking it. I am not going to take a vaccine until I feel comfortable with it, and I don't expect anyone else. So that's why we need that. So my feeling is that it's going to look very much like what we're doing now.
WDSU followed by the Advocate.
Madam Mayor, if the city knew about the event on Saturday ahead of time and had people preparing for it, why were no efforts made to prevent the organizers from setting up or for the event to go on?
Sure, so efforts were made. The bottom line is we did not expect the event to move forward after indicating that it would not be a permitted event in the city of New Orleans. It then went underground and people started showing up.
I mean, why weren't NOPD breaking up the crowd at that point?
Well, because it was already too many people. So it moved to a protest, a response to a protest. And NOPD followed their guidelines and protocols as they have done with every event that we've had.
On the protest aspect, the administration and your response so far has been a lot different than it was during the protests we saw over the summer, just in terms of how you're addressing this event.
Not necessarily. I think you may be speaking about one incident out of the many protests that were held in the city of New Orleans.
I think maybe I wasn't being clear.
Okay.
I don't recall you being this particularly upset about other protests and gatherings that the city has had over the past year, despite the fact that they were large gatherings. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about what the difference is between the event on Saturday and other.
What I will say the difference is that the efforts to communicate were respected. In this instance, they were not respected. And therefore, we did not anticipate that they would not follow the guidelines that we have put in place in our city. And once it went underground and people started showing up, there is protocols that NOPD must follow that really speak to the public safety of everybody.
Last question, WWL.
Have there been any of the fines or citations issued yet?
As of right now, no, because people have just been responsive, you know, in terms of put the mask on, just basic and subtle requests, and giving the, you know, some visitors even maybe not thinking they don't know, but just reminding them that in New Orleans we mask up, it is mandatory. And so we have not really seen any pushback in regards to that. And I did that on Friday afternoon, I believe that was Friday, just, you know, going out and distributing masks and talking to people, and there was no major pushback. People accepted the masks, they even put them on. I mean, that, it's that type, you know, we want to encourage good behavior. So it wasn't, you know, used as a just something that we could fall back on should we need to issue a citation, meaning NOPD, that they're authorized to do so fully.
Madam Mayor, no other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you all.